One of the biggest reasons why people get crossovers is because it is the best middle ground between that of an SUV and a sedan. Now, it's understandable that you will want to maximize your budget and get the utility of an SUV, but that the styling and the comfort of a sedan. And you get that in a crossover. I mean, if it was a one-stop shop, then yeah, crossover would be it. So today we've got two of them. One that leans more towards the SUV side and its utility-ness, I guess you can say that, with 7 seats and a diesel engine. On the other side, you've got something that leans more towards the sedan side with a turbocharged gasoline engine and styling, well, really just to die for. So we're going to go through some of the exterior and interior differences and features, of course tech and comfort inside, yes, definitely power and fuel efficiency, and then we're going to round that all up to help you make an informed decision on which one it is that you should purchase. And then if and when you're ready, I'm going to advise you to head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph and click the Get Quote button because it is absolutely free. Oh, and also stick around to the end of the video where I will give my personal choice between the two. Side note, we've actually had these cars for about 5 days and even Jack doesn't know how this video is going to end because, to be honest with you, that part of the script is still blank. I still don't know which one I'm going to choose. Tough choice, man. Tough choice. Are you looking to compare prices for your brand new car? Well then, visit AutoDeal.com.ph, select the car that you want, and choose to request for a quote from our network of over 500 official dealer partners nationwide. Within minutes, you'll start receiving offers from the dealers you've selected. All that's left is for you to select the deal that's best for you. Get the best deal on AutoDeal. Okay, so first off, let's start with the CR-V SX all-wheel drive. On the top of the line, you've got chrome on the front grille, a bumper with the lower half with more black cladding than body color really. It's also laden with LEDs from its sequential turn signals down to its fog lamps and everything else in between. Down the side, you've got more chrome found around the windowsill and then more so even down below. You've got repeaters on the side mirror. You've got 18-inch wheels in a form of sort of like a daisy. It looks different really than anything else on the road, but they are no doubt 18-inch wheels. And then you're also looking at disc brake front and rear, and that's all sitting above 208 millimeters of ground clearance. Oh, and also to add, there is a lane watch camera found on the right-hand side, which is to say that when you activate your indicators, yeah, that's that thing that blinks on the side of the car that tells you that you're going to change lanes. Yeah, people sometimes forget that. Anyway, when you turn that on, this camera activates so you can see the blind spot that is directly behind you. Pretty cool. When you open her up with the power tailgate, you're looking at 150 liters of space with the third row in play. Then you've got 472 when that's tucked, and then when you fold everything, you get about 900 liters of space. Well, to be exact, it's like 967. The exterior is really nothing grand. I wouldn't say it's basic either. It's definitely just nothing offensive is what I'm trying to get at. And it's pleasant to look at, even with all its curves. It's got it going on, but I'm just saying that it could look a little better. Speaking of which, that brings us on to the Mazda CX-5. Can we just take a moment to really enjoy the color of this car? I gotta admit, some people love it, like myself. There are other people out there, not so much, but it's a win for me. Anyway, on to the exterior. On the front clip, you've got a huge Mazda logo that shields some tech sensors on top of a new blacked out grille. Similar cuts along the face, but with the absence of fog lamps, since these LEDs, like those on the CX-9, they're actually sufficient to illuminate the road. Down the side, you've got chrome underneath, just underneath the window sills. You got repeaters on your side mirror. 19s this time on the Mazda, an inch more than that of the CR-V. Disc brakes also all around, and less ground clearance too, because you're only looking at 195 millimeters. You've got somewhat of a spoiler found on the CX-5, but nowhere near as big as that on the CR-V. But it does have a third brake light, much slimmer tail lamps on this particular car. And then underneath, you've got two exhaust tips. When you open her up, it's also got a power tailgate, generous 438 liters of space, which you can expand to many ways, and tops out at 1,340 liters of space. In the CX-5, I'm gonna close the door because the rain has actually started. Very comfortable back here. Sedan-like, so sedan comfort is what you're going to get back here. Leather is premium. It's good leather. It's Napa. The fit and finish is actually pretty darn good. Leg room, as you'd expect, is pretty good. Then you've got the headroom also. Yes, tall. I'm not tall, but the roof, or rather the cabin, is actually quite tall. There are bottle holders on either door, but not very tall bottle holders, so you can slide a bottle in sideways and keep it sideways for larger bottles. You have two air vents found in the center. No charging points here because the charging points are found on the center armrest. You pop it down, you got two cup holders, and then open this compartment here. Well, you're on the wrong side, but this is a cube that has two USB charging points, both of them 2.1 amperes. Great if you're only going to be two passengers back here, because if it's a third, then you can't use the charging point, right? Speaking of third passenger, if there is one, yeah, I think you would be able to fit a third passenger, maybe of my size, but any larger, that actually might be an issue. So you can fit a maximum of 5 passengers in this car, but really that's it. But if it's 4 passengers, it's actually very comfortable because the seats also recline ever so slightly, so you can get a proper nap going if you really wanted to. So yeah, it's actually very, very comfortable in here. Oh, and also notice this, when you do open the door, I don't want to keep it open too long because the rain's out, the door opens quite large. It's almost a 90-degree angle. Look at that. Watch this. And bam! Boom! Huzzah! Do people use huzzah? Jack, I'm asking you a question.
No.
Oh, okay. Now, in the CR-V, same story. I'm going to close the door because it's raining. The leather, first of all, is good leather, but it's not as good as the Mazda. This one has a little bit more texture, a little bit more roughness to it. And you slide a lot more inside this car, which just basically means you can get in and out much, much easier. The seating, well, the legroom is still also awesome inside this car. Headroom is much, much less, probably because there is a panoramic sunroof that isn't available in the Mazda. Here, it gives more light because, like we mentioned earlier, you can accommodate much more passengers inside this car. Before we get to that, I'll let you know about the toys. So yes, bottle holders on either door. Much taller bottles can come in because it slides in vertical. Wood panels also available inside the CR-V. There are wood panels in the CX-5, but it's much less. What do you call this? Tweeters and mid-range speakers found on the door, so there's a pair on each side. In the center, you have your air vents, okay, and also two 2.5 ampere charging points, so that's about 0.4 amperes more. There is also a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, the difference being in seat comfort inside the CR-V is that, well, the seats are pushed all the way back, but they can move, they rather slide forward and back to give the passengers 6 and 7 a bit more space in the back. It's just that when you are sitting in the most pushed back position, your legs tend to hit these things down here, the channels of which the seats are riding on, the rails. So it's kind of difficult for your feet to get as close to you as possible. However, if you do move the chair ever so slightly, then it just feels a little bit more comfortable there. So again, the focus on this side around is that you can accommodate much more passengers, including a third passenger in the center, because the tunnel is much, much lower inside this automobile. So a third passenger here in the second row would be much more comfortable here than you would be inside the Mazda. And then again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, you do have the option to add 2 more passengers in the back. Those seats, however, I gotta admit, again, it's not exactly like a SUV where the seats are definitely made for an extra 2 passengers. These are more like jump seats, so to speak. But the same with the CX-5 is that the doors of these crossovers really open at a very wide angle, and I like that because that means ingress and egress is much, much easier. I won't say huzzah this time because apparently Jack doesn't like that. Hop on into the driver seat of the CR-V. First thing I noticed that it's a pretty much all digital affair with your instrument cluster and of course your infotainment screen. The infotainment screen, however, is a bit smaller compared to what it is that you would find in other automobiles because this is only a 7-inch screen. Would have enjoyed it to be a little bit bigger, but nonetheless, it actually does work its wonders. You've got a reverse camera, and then of course, as I mentioned, when you turn on or activate your right-hand side indicator, the camera will come on and you'll see a perfect picture of what's going on a little bit behind you, just in case you're about to make a turn and some sweet potato decides to make a right from the right on the right side of a car. Not even anyway. Also, very utilitarian, this automobile, very passenger oriented. There's a lot of space up here because they've removed the lever. It's just buttons now, sort of like a McLaren, a Honda McLaren. Is this Senna's car? Is there an SUV McLaren? If not, you heard it here first, folks. You have an auto-dimming mirror because you've got Honda sensing in here. Apart from the auto-dimming mirror, you've also got radar cruise, a rear cross-traffic alert, and the whole suite of it. As we've already shown you, there's a panoramic sunroof, and then there's this bit right here which you can open and keep like that so that you can see all passengers because again it's very passenger oriented, and as I mentioned, utilitarian. I mean, look at the amount of space that you have in here. This is a very deep cubby hole. This slide right here is removable, which you can put so much stuff in. This is all Jack's stuff, by the way. This is what ends up happening when you go to a concert and you end up spending more time inside a car than you actually do at the concert. I'm looking at you, Philippine Arena. Poor not a good time. Not a good time. Also, you've got not just cup holders here, but also bottle holders and cup holders on the door. And then check out the size of this glove box. Look at it. It's huge. Not just the space, but the door itself. Oh, and also there are 2 charging points available. Well, one is actually for your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. This is a 1 ampere charging point, but there is also a USB charging pad, which I actually quite like. Now on to finally what is that? A CX-5. Now the layout in the CX-5, I gotta say, is a little bit more plush, a little bit more classic, a little bit cleaner, so to speak. It's odd that I actually said plush. Well, I did say classic, but because while in the CR-V it's an all digital affair, here there's actually a digital screen, but it's flanked by 2 analog gauges. So you got classic there. Not too classic because this part right here used to be a DVD player, so they 86 that finally. I really did see the purpose in that. So anyway, you've got a digital screen that is has your reverse camera and of course your around view monitor. It's got that. You've got your commander knob here to control that. Buttons on your steering wheel. Power seats for both passenger and driver, or rather passenger and driver. Same with the CR-V. Here you also have got some good storage in the center here. Not as much storage, I would say, as the CR-V. The difference, though, I found that the connectivity for your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in the CR-V, it's easily found up front. Here you have a 12-volt socket and a wireless charging pad, but the connectivity for the Apple or Android is back here, right beside another charging point. So I think that's well, it's not the biggest of hassles, and it's not a deal breaker. It's just, it's a bit odd that it's hidden when it could have easily been placed there. So there you go. There's the differences and similarities between these two crossovers that are, again, as I mentioned, priced very close together or within the same range. The difference being is really what lies at the front of the automobile, the heart of the automobile. And I want to talk to you about that whilst we go for a drive. Oh, please do subscribe to our channel because we create these videos just for you guys. This rain's not going to be a problem, is it?
All-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive, no problem. Hop in, Jack. Now, when it comes to getting off the line, since they are both all-wheel drive systems and they're both turbocharged, the pickup and the push or pull, or both actually, is rather very good and similar between the two. The difference being is that inside this particular car, which is the Mazda CX-5, the mill up front is the same thing as what you would find inside a CX-9, which is to say it's a 2.5 liter mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission that is, like I said, turbocharged, that produces, get this, 234 horses and 434 Newton meters of torque. That is in the same category as some pickup trucks already, some 4x2s or even 4x4s for that matter, that have diesel engines. So the difference is that when this thing gets going, because it's a turbo gasoline, when the turbo kicks in, you'll just keep going faster and faster and faster. And I'd also like to point out that it just happened recently, that the tables have actually turned when it comes to fuel prices. No longer is diesel more affordable than gasoline. So in that sense, it's actually cheaper to fill this tank up than it is a diesel tank. Now, with that said, fuel efficiency of said CX-5 is about 8 kilometers per liter in the city. Thanks to its very large engine and all-wheel drive, it does consume a little bit more. And then on the highway, you're doing about 15 kilometers per liter. So definitely nothing astronomical, but you understand why, because all that power is sitting inside that engine and it's both pulling you and pushing you at the same time. I will, however, say that the NVH inside this automobile is fantastic. There are horns going on right now outside the automobile, but I can barely hear them. And then when you're traveling, these are 19-inch wheels, but when you're traveling, it's very, very smooth. Road noise is not a problem. Air noise is not a problem. Wind noise, rather, not air noise. Wind noise isn't a problem. Engine noise, obviously, because it's a gasoline engine, it's not an issue at all. And then there's also the fact that even if it were an issue, this thing is packed with a Bose sound system, and that is very choice. So in summation, driving the CX-5 is really, well, as the driver, it's really a lot of fun to drive. You've got Jin Bai Tai going on, it's driver-centric, it's punchy, it's really fun to drive around corners, up hills and whatnot. As a passenger, comfort is good. Obviously not as great as the driver, because maybe inside this car, it can be said, like the CX-9, that the driver is king. So yeah, in this position and in this car, it's just really a very fun automobile to be in. And drive. And as usual, if you would like even more information on the CX-5, this particular one, we actually have 2 videos on them. We have the initial walk around, and then we also have the proper review. Links are definitely available down below. Oh, and there's also one other video that we did with this particular CX-5. We took the president of Mazda, Mr. Steven Tan, out for a drive, and he decided to feed Jack and I, so I'm sure that that link is also somewhere down in the description. in the CR-V, it's a different story for the mill up front, because instead of a gasoline engine, you've got a turbo diesel in the form of a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder that produces 118 horses and 300 newton meters of torque. So much less actually than the gasoline engine of the CX-5. But in this case, because it's a diesel, the acceleration is actually smoother. It feels safer, it feels calmer, again, feels more mature. And if you have a full complement of passengers, because it's a diesel, the power kicks in very low in the rev range. So what I'm getting at is that when you need the torque, it's always there. Now, in the term of the 9-speed automatic transmission that this car has, it actually does a pretty decent job when it comes to fuel efficiency, because in the city, it's doing 11 kilometers per liter. On the highway, much better at 18 kilometers per liter. The thing, though, is whether you are in traffic or moving along, the engine, the diesel engine, well, it's quite loud inside the automobile. And not because this car has 23,000 kilometers on it. No, when we first received this automobile, that was an observation that we had already then, that the engine noise does creep into the cabin a little bit more than you'd expect it to. Again, much like the CX-5, we also have reviews of this CR-V, and if you'd like to see a more comprehensive review, either the walk around or the full review on it, I'm sure that the links are somewhere down below. In addition to the transmission, there is a time when it kind of goes fishing, in the sense that, well, because there are 9 gears, sometimes I feel as if that when you're on uncertain speeds, so to speak, it kind of is looking around for a gear to drive on, and that sometimes can get a little punchy. It feels a little off, but it happens far and few in between. The last thing I want to say is the driving feel of the automobile is, well, it's a lot calmer. It's not like it's on its toes the whole time, and it's not like it needs pampering or attention all the time. No, it feels like you're being taken care of, and it's a very easy and light drive. What helps also is the fact that, I've said this many times before, but Honda really has a great steering feel. It's like Honda magic. And on a side note, again, this car has 23,000 kilometers on it, but the steering wheel, the feel of the leather still feels great, actually. It's maybe shiny, but it's not slippery in any form whatsoever. I like it. It's a good feel, really, when you're driving this automobile, or any Honda for that matter. Now, I'm warning you, this may sound like a cop-out because, well, yeah, it probably is one. But if you were to choose either of these cars to sit in your garage, it's a win right there, because both of them are actually very fantastic cars. To separate them, well, if you're more family-oriented and you want and need all the utilitarian space and whatnot, the 7 seats, more passengers, you want the fuel efficiency and the smoothness of a diesel, then yeah, definitely the CR-V is the car for you. If you want something a little more exciting to drive, punchier with more power underneath, obviously much classier interior, then the CX-5 would be the choice for you. As for my personal choice, well, I'm the type of guy that wants to make sure that I have everything that I need inside the automobile. And my wife and kids love to pack a lot of stuff. So space is very important to me. And every once in a while, we do have more passengers inside the car than just us. So the more mature choice, truth be, is definitely the CR-V. That's the more mature choice. This, however, the Mazda CX-5 would probably be my personal choice in the difference between the two, because, well, I just identify with the car so much more, because it's really just, I love to be able to drive this car because it's just so punchy and fun around turns and whatnot. So yeah, this may be the more mature choice, but hey, look at me. Do I really look that mature to you? Honestly, I wear size 8 shoes. I'm in sneakers all the time. That's just the way it is. So yeah, again, the CX-5 would be my choice, but I will say that every once in a while, I'll look over my shoulder and check out the CR-V every once in a while. That's the truth.